The alarm bells rang through every deck of the spaceship Defender. Admiral Jake Morrison rushed to the bridge, his coffee cup forgotten on his desk. The ship's metal floors vibrated under his boots as he ran. When he reached the bridge, everyone was staring at the big screen that showed space around Earth. "What do we have, Lisa?" Jake asked the woman at the main computer station. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes turned around. Her face was white with fear. "Admiral, the long-distance sensors picked up something big, really big, coming toward Earth from deep space." Jake looked at the screen. At first he saw nothing but stars and empty space. Then Lisa pressed some buttons, and the view changed. Now he could see them. Hundreds of tiny dots moving in perfect lines toward their solar system. "How many ships?" Jake asked. 200 confirmed contacts, sir. Maybe more behind them. They're still too far away to get exact numbers. Jake felt his stomach drop. 200 enemy ships. Earth's entire space navy had only 12 real warships. The rest were cargo ships with guns bolted on, or science ships trying to pretend they could fight. "How long do we have?" Lisa checked her readings again. "At their current speed, they'll reach Earth in 72 hours. 3 days, sir." The bridge went quiet except for the humming of computers and the steady beep of the radar. Everyone knew what this meant. The Draconians were coming. Jake had read every report about the Draconians. They were 8 feet tall lizard-like creatures, with sharp teeth and claws. They had been conquering planets for thousands of years. When they found a world they wanted, they simply took it. The people living there became slaves or were killed. "Send a message to all Earth defense stations," Jake ordered. "Tell them Code Red is now active. This is not a drill." On the moon, Captain Ben Carter was eating lunch when the emergency signal came through. He dropped his sandwich and ran to the command center of Luna Station. His job was to control the big guns and missile batteries that protected Earth from space. "How bad is it?" Ben asked his deputy. "Bad, sir. 200 Draconian warships heading straight for us. Each one is bigger than anything we've ever built." Ben looked at the tactical display. The red dots representing enemy ships looked like a swarm of angry bees heading toward a flower. Earth was the flower. "Start powering up all defense platforms. Send alerts to every ship in the system. I want everything that can fly and carry a weapon ready for battle." Back on the Defender, Jake was talking to commanders all over the solar system. Space stations near Mars, asteroid mining bases, even the research station near Jupiter were being told to prepare for war. Dr. Amanda Brooks worked at the communications center deep inside the ship. Her job was to listen for enemy radio signals and try to understand what the Draconians were planning. So far, she had heard nothing but silence from the approaching fleet. "Any word from them, Amanda?" Jake asked when he visited her station. "Nothing, Admiral. They're maintaining complete radio silence. No communications between their ships, no signals back to their homeworld. It's like they're ghosts flying through space." Jake nodded. This was typical Draconian behavior. They didn't waste time with threats or demands. They just showed up and started shooting. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of activity. Every spaceship that could move was heading toward Earth. Families on the outer colonies were being evacuated to safer places. The orbital cities around Earth were sending their children down to the planet's surface. Jake stood in his command center watching reports come in from all over the solar system. Humanity was preparing for the biggest battle in its history. "Sir," Lisa called out, "we're getting updated readings on the enemy fleet." "What do you see?" "Each Draconian ship is about 3 times bigger than our largest warship. Their hulls are covered in some kind of armor we've never seen before. And sir, each ship appears to be carrying about 5,000 troops." Jake did the math in his head. 200 ships times 5,000 soldiers each. 1 million Draconian warriors were coming to conquer Earth. The second day brought more bad news. Long-range sensors showed that the Draconian ships had weapons, systems that were far more advanced than anything humans had built. Their energy cannons could destroy a human ship from thousands of miles away. "We're not going to win this fight," Ben Carter said during a video conference with all the Earth defense commanders, "but we can make them pay for every inch." "That's the plan," Jake agreed. "We hit them hard and fast. Make them work for it. Maybe if we hurt them enough, they'll decide Earth isn't worth the cost. Dr. Brooks had been studying old reports from other planets the Draconians had attacked. Admiral, I've found something interesting. In most cases, the Draconians like to capture planets with their populations intact. They need workers for their mining operations. What are you suggesting? If we can convince them that conquering Earth will cost them too much, they might try to negotiate instead of just destroying everything. It was a thin hope, but it was better than nothing. On the third day, the Draconian fleet crossed into the outer edge of the solar system. They were now close enough for Earth's sensors to get detailed readings. The enemy ships were massive and dark, like floating cities made of black metal. Their hulls were smooth and curved with no visible windows or markings. They're beautiful in a terrifying way, Lisa whispered as she watched them on the main screen. Jake had to agree. The Draconian ships moved through space with perfect grace, like deadly fish swimming through an ocean of stars. All across the solar system, human defenders waited at their posts. On Earth, people looked up at the sky and wondered if they would see another sunrise. In the space stations, families hugged each other and tried not to think about what was coming. Admiral, Lisa said suddenly, the Draconian fleet is changing formation. They're spreading out into attack positions. Jake watched as the enemy ships moved into a wide line facing Earth. It was like watching death itself arrange itself into neat rows. All stations, this is Admiral Morrison. The enemy fleet will be in weapons range in approximately 4 hours. All personnel should prepare for combat. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for the future of humanity itself. The hours crawled by slowly. On every human ship and station, people checked their weapons and said prayers. Some wrote letters to their families. Others just sat quietly and thought about home. Dr. Brooks continued monitoring communications, hoping to pick up some clue about Draconian plans. Captain Carter made final adjustments to his defense systems. Lieutenant Commander Hayes ran constant checks on all the sensors, making sure they wouldn't miss anything important. As the sun set on Earth, casting long shadows across the continents, humanity held its breath. In space above them, 200 alien warships continued their steady approach. Soon the shooting would start. Jake stood on his bridge looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there in the darkness, an alien species was coming to destroy everything he had ever loved. But humanity wouldn't go down without a fight. Sir? Lisa said quietly. Estimated time to weapons range is now 30 minutes. Jake nodded. Send one final message to all ships. Tell them it's been an honor serving with them. The message went out across the fleet. On every ship, in every station, people straightened their shoulders and prepared to face the unknown. They were scared, but they were ready. Earth's darkest hour was about to begin. Admiral Jake Morrison had not slept for 36 hours. His eyes were red and tired, but he could not rest. The Draconian fleet was getting closer every minute. He stood on the bridge of the Defender, drinking his 5th cup of coffee and watching the enemy ships on the main screen. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes called out from her station. Something strange is happening. Jake walked over to her console. What do you mean strange? Lisa looked confused. Her fingers moved quickly over her keyboard as she checked and rechecked her readings. Sir, I'm not picking up the Draconian fleet on sensors anymore. Jake felt his heart skip a beat. What do you mean you're not picking them up? Are the sensors broken? That's what I thought at first. But I've run diagnostics 3 times. All systems are working perfectly. The Draconian fleet has simply vanished from our screens. Jake stared at the display. Where 200 enemy ships had been just minutes ago, there was now empty space. Nothing but stars and darkness. Lisa, run another sweep. Check every frequency. Maybe they're using some kind of stealth technology. Lisa's hands flew over her. Controls. She checked radar, heat sensors, gravity detectors, and every other system the ship had. All of them showed the same thing. Empty space where the enemy fleet should be. Captain Ben Carter's voice crackled over the communication system from Luna Station. Defender, this is Luna Station. Are you seeing what we're seeing up there? What are you reading, Ben? Jake asked. Nothing. Admiral, 200 Draconian warships just disappeared from our sensors. 1 second they were there, the next second they were gone. All of them at the same time. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Ships didn't just vanish into thin air, especially not 200 massive warships carrying 1 million alien soldiers. Dr. Amanda Brooks looked up from her communication station. Admiral, I'm getting the same reports from every listening post in the solar system. Mars Station, Jupiter, Base, even the deep space monitors, they all confirm the same thing. The Draconian fleet has vanished. Jake tried to think. What could make an entire alien armada disappear? Had they jumped into hyperspace? But Lisa was right about the gravity sensors. Any jump that big would have created massive distortions in space-time. The sensors would have detected something. Could they have cloaked themselves somehow? Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. Not possible, sir. Even if they had perfect cloaking technology, we would still detect their mass. 200 ships that size would create gravity signatures we could track. But there's nothing. It's like they never existed. The hours passed slowly. Every sensor array in the solar system was searching for any trace of the missing fleet. Long range. Probes were sent out to scan the area where the ships had last been seen. Advanced telescopes looked for any sign of wreckage or debris. But there was nothing. The space where the Draconian fleet had been was completely empty. On Luna Station, Captain Ben Carter was having the same conversation with his officers. Could they have turned around and gone home? One of his lieutenants suggested. Impossible, Ben replied. Our sensors track everything that moves in this system. If they had changed course, we would have seen it. Besides, Draconians don't retreat. They've never retreated from any battle in recorded history. Dr. Brooks pulled up all the data from the last few hours. She created a timeline showing exactly when each sensor had lost track of the enemy fleet. Admiral, look at this. Every single ship disappeared at exactly the same moment, down to the millisecond. Jake studied the data. That's not natural. Something made them disappear. But what? I have an idea, Dr. Brooks said quietly. What if something else took them? The bridge went silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at her. What do you mean took them? Jake asked. I mean, what if there's something out there that's more powerful than the Draconians? Something that can make entire fleets disappear without a trace. Jake felt his blood run cold. The idea was terrifying. If something could eliminate 200 Draconian warships in an instant, what did that mean for Earth? Were humans now facing an even greater threat? Lisa was studying her sensors with new intensity. Dr. Brooks might be right, Admiral. I'm detecting some very faint gravity distortions in the area where the fleet disappeared. They're so small, our sensors almost missed them. Show me, Jake ordered. The main screen changed to display a map of gravitational forces in space around Earth. Most of it looked normal, but there were tiny ripples in space-time near where the Draconian fleet had vanished. It's like something very heavy moved through that area, Lisa explained. But whatever it was much more massive than the Draconian ships. Captain Carter's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral, we're picking up the same readings here on Luna. Whatever happened to those ships, it involved something big, really big. Jake walked to the front of the bridge and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, something had destroyed or captured an entire alien invasion fleet. But what? And why? Dr. Brooks continued analyzing the sensor data. Admiral, I think I found something else. These gravity distortions didn't just appear when the fleet vanished. I can trace them back for several hours, maybe even days. What are you saying? I'm saying whatever took the Draconian fleet was following them, stalking them as they approached Earth. The implications of this hit everyone on the bridge at the same time. Something had been hunting the Draconians, following them through space as they traveled toward Earth, and when the time was right, it had struck. But why would something help us? Lisa asked. We've never encountered anything like this before. Why would an unknown alien species protect Earth? Jake had no answer. Nothing in human experience had prepared them for this situation. On Luna Station, Ben Carter was asking his own questions. If something out there is powerful enough to eliminate the Draconian fleet, Should we be worried? Are we next? His officers had no answers either. They were all thinking the same thing. Earth had been saved from one threat, but they might now be facing something even more dangerous. Dr. Brooks worked through the night, analyzing every piece of data they had collected. She cross-referenced the gravity distortions with reports from deep space monitoring stations. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. "Admiral," she called out the next morning, "I think I know what happened." Jake hurried over to her station. He had finally gotten a few hours of sleep, but he still felt exhausted. "The gravity signatures show something following the Draconian fleet for at least a week," Dr. Brooks explained. "Whatever it was stayed just outside our sensor range, but the gravitational effects are clear. It was huge, probably bigger than the entire Draconian fleet combined." "A ship?" Jake asked. "Maybe. Or maybe something else entirely. The readings don't match anything in our databases." Jake studied the data. The pattern was clear once he knew what to look for. Something massive had been shadowing the Draconian fleet, keeping pace with them as they approached Earth. Then, at the last moment, it had acted. "Sir?" Lisa called out suddenly. "I'm picking up something new on long-range sensors." Jake spun around. "More Draconians?" "No, sir. This is different. Much different. It's big, Admiral. Bigger than anything we've ever seen. And it's heading straight for Earth." The bridge erupted in activity. Officers ran to their stations, checking weapons and shields. But Jake held up his hand for quiet. "Wait," he said. "Let's see what this is before we panic." On the main screen, a single object appeared. It was enormous, dwarfing even the largest Draconian ships. Its hull seemed to bend light around it, making it difficult to look at directly. "Is it a ship?" someone asked. "I don't know," Lisa replied. "It doesn't match any known design. It's like nothing I've ever seen." As they watched, the mysterious object settled into orbit around Earth. It made no aggressive moves. It simply positioned itself between Earth and the outer solar system, as if standing guard. Jake realized that whatever had saved them from the Draconians was now here. The question was whether it came as a friend or as Earth's new conqueror. Admiral Jake Morrison stared at the massive object floating in space above Earth. It had been there for 3 days now, and nobody knew what to do about it. The thing was bigger than a city, and darker than the space around it. Sometimes it seemed to shimmer like heat waves on a hot road, making it hard to look at directly. "Any change in its position?" Jake asked Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes. "No, sir. It's holding the same orbit. Hasn't moved an inch in 72 hours. Jake walked around the bridge of the Defender, thinking, whatever this thing was, it had made 200 Draconian warships disappear without a trace. Now it was just sitting there, watching Earth. The waiting was driving everyone crazy. Dr. Amanda Brooks looked up from her communication station. "Admiral, I've tried every frequency we know. Radio, laser, microwave, even old-fashioned light signals. Nothing. It's not responding to any of our attempts to make contact." Captain Ben Carter's voice came through the speakers from Luna Station. "Admiral, my people are getting nervous. Some of the younger officers want to fire a warning shot at that thing." "Absolutely not," Jake said quickly. "We don't shoot at something. That could make our entire fleet disappear. Tell your people to stay calm and keep watching." The truth was, Jake didn't know what to do either. Earth's military had trained for alien invasion, not for mysterious alien protectors, if that's what this thing was. For all they knew, it was just deciding how best to destroy humanity. On the 3rd day, something changed. Lisa noticed it first, during her regular sensor sweep. "Admiral, the object is doing something different. It's extending some kind of appendage toward Earth." Jake rushed to her station and looked at the readings. A long, thin projection was growing out of the alien object. It looked like a metal arm reaching down toward the planet. "Is it a weapon?" Jake asked. "I don't think so, sir. It's not giving off any energy readings. It looks more like an antenna or communication device." Dr. Brooks checked her equipment. "I'm picking up signals now, very faint but definitely artificial. It's trying to communicate with us." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. This was it. First contact with whatever had saved Earth from the Draconians. "What kind of signals?" he asked. Mathematical sequences at first, prime numbers, basic equations, standard first contact protocol stuff, but now it's getting more complex. The signals grew stronger over the next hour. Dr. Brooks worked frantically to decode them, running the data through every translation program Earth had developed. "It's learning our language," she said with amazement. "Somehow it's accessing our communication networks and figuring out how we talk." Jake had heard of this in science fiction stories, but seeing it happen was incredible. The alien intelligence was sampling human radio broadcasts, television signals, and internet traffic. It was teaching itself English in real time. "Captain." Carter joined them by video link from Luna Station. "This is either the most advanced artificial intelligence we've ever encountered, or we're dealing with a species that's millions of years ahead of us technologically." "Maybe both," Jake replied. After several more hours, the alien signals changed again. This time, they came through the ship's speakers as actual words. The voice was strange, like it was speaking through water, but understandable. "Greetings, humans of Earth." Everyone on the bridge froze. Jake stepped forward toward the communication console. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. Who are we speaking to?" "I am a keeper, guardian of this region of space. You may call me Guardian for simplicity." Jake exchanged glances with his officers. "A guardian? That sounded promising." "Guardian, did you destroy the Draconian fleet that was approaching our world?" "The Draconian fleet was not destroyed. They have been relocated to a place where they cannot harm others." Lisa leaned over to Jake and whispered, "Relocated? What does that mean?" Jake asked the question out loud. "What do you mean, relocated? The Draconians have been taken to a world where they will learn to live peacefully. If they refuse to change their ways, they will remain there until they do." Dr. Brooks couldn't contain her curiosity. "How did you move 200 warships without anyone seeing it happen? Your technology cannot detect our methods of travel. We exist in dimensions beyond your current understanding." Jake tried to process this information. Beings that could travel through other dimensions and move entire fleets instantly. Earth was dealing with something far beyond human comprehension. "Why did you help us?" Jake asked. "We've never met before. We didn't even know you existed." "We have been watching your species for some time. Humanity shows potential that must be protected." Captain Carter's voice came through the speakers. "What kind of potential? Most species we encounter are driven by fear, greed, or conquest. When faced with extinction, they become savage and cruel. Humanity responded differently to the Draconian threat." Jake thought about the past few weeks. Earth's nations had put aside their differences to face the common threat. People had volunteered to help evacuate children and elderly. Even facing certain death, humans had tried to maintain their values. "We watched how your people behaved when they thought they were going to die," the Guardian continued. "You did not abandon your weak. You did not become tyrants. You did not surrender your principles even when facing impossible odds." Dr. Brooks was recording everything. This was the most important conversation in human history. "Are there others like you?" she asked. "Yes. We are called keepers. We watch over younger species throughout the galaxy. We protect those who show promise and allow natural selection to guide those who do not." Lisa looked worried. "Natural selection? You mean you let some species get destroyed?" "Only those who choose destruction through their own actions. Species that embrace war, cruelty, or conquest eventually face enemies they cannot defeat. We do not interfere with such outcomes." Jake was beginning to understand. "So the Draconians weren't the first species you've dealt with?" "The Draconians have conquered 47 worlds in this region of space. They have enslaved billions of beings. We have been tracking them for centuries, waiting for the right moment to act." "Why now? Why not before they conquered all those other worlds?" "Each species must face its own tests. Some worlds fell to the Draconians because their people could not unite against the threat. Others survived because they were stronger. Earth's test was different." Captain Carter asked the obvious question. "What was our test?" "Your test was not whether you could defeat the Draconians militarily. Your test was who you would remain when facing certain death. Would you become monsters to fight monsters? Would you sacrifice your values to survive? The answer was no. Jake felt a strange mix of pride and relief. Humanity had passed some kind of cosmic test without even knowing it. What happens now? He asked. Now you have a choice. You can continue developing as an isolated species. We will ensure no hostile forces threaten your world until you are ready to defend yourselves, or you can accept guidance toward joining the galactic community of peaceful civilizations. The bridge went silent as everyone absorbed this information. The Guardian was offering humanity a place among the stars, but only if they wanted it. Dr. Brooks had 1,000 questions. How many species are part of this galactic community? Currently, there are 237 peaceful species working together across this galaxy. They share knowledge, trade resources, and help each other grow. And the hostile species? They exist, but they are contained. Species like the Draconians find their expansion limited by our intervention and by the strength of united peaceful worlds. Jake realized they were being offered something incredible, a chance to join a galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of conquest. We need time to discuss this with our leaders, Jake said. Of course, this decision affects your entire species. Take all the time you need. We will remain here until you are ready to give us your answer. As the communication ended, Jake looked around the bridge. 3 days ago, they had been preparing to die fighting an alien invasion. Now they were being invited to join a galactic federation. The universe had just become a much bigger and more complicated place. The emergency meeting took place in the biggest conference room on Luna Station. Leaders from every nation on Earth joined by video link. Military commanders, scientists, and government officials filled the room and the screens. Admiral Jake Morrison had never seen so many important people in one place at the same time. President Sarah Johnson of the United States spoke first. Admiral Morrison, please explain exactly what this Guardian told you. Jake stood up and looked around the room. Every face was focused on him. The weight of humanity's future rested on how well he could explain what had happened. The Guardian says we passed some kind of test. When the Draconians were coming to attack us, they were watching how we responded. They wanted to see if we would keep our values or become monsters when facing death. And we passed? Asked Prime Minister Chen Wei of China. According to them, yes. They said most species either surrender, become tyrants, or abandon their weak. When facing extinction, humanity did none of those things. Dr. Amanda Brooks added her report. The Guardian claims to be part of a group called Keepers. They watch over younger species throughout the galaxy. There are currently 237 peaceful species working together in what they call a galactic community. Secretary General Maria Santos of the United Nations leaned forward. What exactly are they offering us? Jake pulled up the recording of their conversation with the Guardian. Everyone listened carefully as the alien voice explained humanity's choice. Join the galactic community or remain isolated under their protection. So we can stay on Earth and they'll protect us? Asked President Petrov of Russia. That's what they said. No hostile aliens would be allowed to threaten us until we're ready to defend ourselves. Or we can join this galactic federation. Yes, but we don't know what that means exactly. What responsibilities would we have? What would be expected of us? Captain Ben Carter spoke up from his position at Luna Station. I think we need to ask them more questions before we make any decisions. Everyone agreed. The stakes were too high to make a choice without understanding all the consequences. Jake returned to the Defender and opened communications with the Guardian again. This time, leaders from around the world listened in as he asked their questions. Guardian, if we choose to join the galactic community, what would be required of us? You would be expected to maintain peace within your own species and to help defend other peaceful worlds when they are threatened. You would share your knowledge and resources with other species, and they would share theirs with you. President Johnson asked, would we lose our independence? Would you rule over us? No. Each species governs itself according to its own nature and culture. The Keepers provide guidance only when requested. We do not rule. What about our technology? Dr. Brooks asked. Would you give us advanced technology to help us develop faster? Technology is shared gradually as species prove they can use it responsibly. A species that receives weapons technology before learning wisdom often destroys itself. Prime Minister Chen Wei had a practical question. If we join, would humans be expected to leave Earth and colonize other planets? Only if you choose to. Some species prefer to remain on their home worlds. Others spread across many planets. The choice is always yours. Jake asked something that had been bothering him. Guardian, you said the Draconians conquered 47 worlds. What happened to the people on those worlds? Most were enslaved and forced to work in mining operations. Some were killed when they resisted. A few were kept as specimens for Draconian entertainment. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking about how close Earth had come to that fate. Are those people free now? Asked Secretary General Santos. The Draconians have been removed from all conquered worlds. The enslaved populations are being helped to rebuild their civilizations. Some will choose to join the galactic community. Others will need time to heal from their experiences. Dr. Brooks had been taking notes throughout the conversation. Guardian, how long do we have to make this decision? There is no time limit. This choice will affect your species for thousands of years. Take as long as you need to decide wisely. After the communication ended, the debates began. Some leaders wanted to accept the offer immediately. The chance to learn from hundreds of advanced civilizations was too valuable to pass up. Others worried about losing human independence or being overwhelmed by alien cultures. President Johnson argued for caution. We've been alone in the universe for our entire history. Maybe we should stay that way until we're more advanced. But think of what we could learn, countered Dr. Brooks. Medicine that could eliminate disease, energy sources that could end poverty, technologies we can't even imagine. President Petrov raised security concerns. How do we know this Guardian is telling the truth? Maybe this galactic community is just another form of conquest, more subtle than the Draconians but just as effective. The Guardian could have taken over Earth already if that was the goal, Jake pointed out. They have the power to make entire fleets disappear. They don't need to trick us. The discussions continued for days. Public opinion on Earth was divided as well. News reports showed protests both for and against joining the galactic community. Some people were excited about meeting alien civilizations. Others were terrified of losing human culture to alien influences. Religious leaders debated whether contact with aliens supported or contradicted their beliefs. Scientists argued about the benefits and risks of advanced technology. Philosophers questioned what it meant to be human in a galaxy full of other intelligent species. Captain Carter had his own concerns. What happens to Earth's military if we join? Do we still need to defend ourselves? Good question, Jake replied. Guardian, if we join the galactic community, would Earth still need its own military forces? Each species maintains its own defense forces. The galactic community is not a single government but a collection of independent worlds that cooperate. Sometimes military assistance is requested when a member world faces threats it cannot handle alone. So we might be asked to help fight in wars on other planets, only against species that threaten the peace. Wars of conquest are not permitted within the community. Military action is used only for defense. Jake wasn't sure he liked the sound of that. Earth had just avoided one war. The idea of fighting in alien conflicts was troubling. Dr. Brooks asked about something else that worried many people. Guardian, would joining the galactic community change human culture? Would we lose what makes us human? Contact with other species always brings change, but species that maintain their core values and identity tend to thrive in the community. Those that abandon their nature often struggle. What do you mean by core values? The qualities that made us choose to protect your species, your ability to cooperate despite differences, your willingness to sacrifice for others, your refusal to abandon your principles under pressure. These traits are rare and valuable. Jake felt some relief at this answer. The Guardian seemed to appreciate humanity for what it was, not for what it might become. As the days passed, a consensus began to emerge among Earth's leaders. The opportunity was too important to reject, but humanity needed to proceed carefully. President Johnson summarized their position during another conference call. "We're interested in joining the galactic community, but we want to start slowly. Can we begin with limited contact and see how it goes?" Jake relayed this question to the Guardian. "Of course, many species begin with limited contact. We can arrange for a small group of humans to visit one of the peaceful worlds and observe how the community functions. Based on that experience, you can decide how much involvement you want." This suggestion pleased most of the world leaders. They could learn about the galactic community without committing Earth to full membership right away. "How would this work?" Jake asked. "We would transport a small delegation to a nearby world that is home to several peaceful species. You would observe their society, meet their leaders, and learn how different species cooperate. The visit would last several of your months." Jake looked around the conference room. Everyone seemed more comfortable with this gradual approach. "We accept your offer, Guardian. When can this visit begin?" Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the special chamber that the Guardian had built inside their massive ship. The walls glowed with soft blue light, and the air smelled like flowers he had never encountered before. With him were 5 other humans, who had been chosen to represent Earth on this historic mission. Dr. Amanda Brooks carried a bag full of recording equipment. She would document everything they saw and learned. Captain Ben Carter had volunteered to study alien military technology and defense systems. Dr. Susan Price was a biologist who wanted to learn about alien life forms. Professor David Kim specialized in languages and would try to understand how different species communicated. Finally, there was Maria Santos, a diplomat who would observe how alien governments worked together. "Are you ready?" the Guardian asked, through the ship's communication system. Jake looked around at his team. Everyone nodded, though he could see nervousness in their faces. They were about to become the first humans to visit an alien world. "We're ready," Jake replied. The chamber, filled with a strange humming sound. The blue light grew brighter until Jake had to close his eyes. When he opened them again, everything had changed. Instead of the metal walls of the Guardian's ship, he was looking through a transparent barrier at an alien sky. 3 suns hung in the purple heavens, casting rainbow shadows across a landscape that looked like something from a dream. Tall crystal trees grew from silver soil, their branches moving in wind that made musical sounds. In the distance, Jake could see buildings that seemed to float in the air without any visible support. "Welcome to Harmony Station," the Guardian said. "This world is home to representatives from many species in the galactic community. You will stay here and observe how different civilizations interact." A door opened in the chamber wall, and the humans stepped out onto the alien world. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, making each step feel like a small bounce. The air was warm and had a sweet taste. Their first guide was a being that looked like a cross between a dolphin and a bird. Its skin was smooth and blue, and it had 4 arms that ended in delicate hands. When it spoke, its voice sounded like singing. "I am Song of Welcome from the world you call Kepler 442b. I will show you how we live here." Song of Welcome led them through the floating city. Jake saw dozens of different alien species working together. Some looked almost human, but with different colored skin or extra limbs. Others were so strange that Jake had trouble understanding how they moved or communicated. In one building, a creature that looked like a walking tree was teaching mathematics to a group of young aliens from several different species. The tree being used colors and musical tones instead of numbers, but somehow the students understood perfectly. "How do they all communicate?" Professor Kim asked. "We use translation devices," Song of Welcome explained, touching a small crystal on its forehead. "They convert thoughts and meanings between different languages instantly." Dr. Brooks was amazed. "You can translate thoughts?" "Not thoughts exactly, but intentions and concepts. When I think about happiness, the device helps you understand what happiness means to my species, even though we might express it differently." Captain Carter was more interested in the military aspects. "Song of Welcome. How do you handle conflicts between species? What if one group wants something another group Has? Conflicts are resolved through the Council of Voices. Each species sends representatives to discuss problems and find solutions that work for everyone. What if someone refuses to accept the Council's decision? That rarely happens. Species that consistently refuse to cooperate are asked to leave the community. Most choose to work together because the benefits are too valuable to lose. Over the following days, the humans learned more about how the galactic community functioned. They visited farms where alien plants grew food that could nourish dozens of different species. They saw factories where advanced materials were created, using technologies that seemed like magic. Dr. Price was fascinated by the medical facilities. They can cure diseases that we've never even heard of, she told Jake during one of their evening discussions. Cancer, aging, genetic disorders, all treatable with their technology. But they won't just give us the cures, Jake replied. The Guardian was clear about that. We have to earn advanced technology by proving we can use it responsibly. Professor Kim had been studying the translation devices. I think I'm beginning to understand how they work. They don't just translate words. They translate entire ways of thinking. When a tree creature thinks about time, it's completely different from how we think about time. But the device helps bridge that gap. Maria Santos spent her time observing the Council of Voices. It's like the United Nations, but it actually works, she reported. Every species gets a vote, but decisions are made by consensus, not majority rule. They keep talking until everyone can agree on a solution. What about the species that can't agree? Jake asked. I watched them handle a dispute between two species that both wanted to colonize the same planet. Instead of fighting over it, they worked together to terraform a different planet that could support both groups. It took longer, but nobody had to give up their dreams. After 2 weeks on Harmony Station, the humans were taken to visit other worlds in the community. They saw planets covered entirely by cities where billions of beings lived in harmony. They visited agricultural worlds where entire continents were devoted to growing food for the galactic community. They even saw military bases where different species trained together to defend against hostile threats. Captain Carter was impressed by the military cooperation. They share everything, he told Jake. Weapon designs, tactical knowledge, even soldiers. When one world is threatened, forces from dozens of other worlds come to help. Have they ever had to fight a war? Jake asked. Several times, usually against species like the Draconians that try to conquer peaceful worlds. The community doesn't start wars, but they finish them. As their visit continued, the humans began to understand what membership in the galactic community would mean for Earth. It wasn't just about receiving advanced technology or protection from hostile aliens. It was about becoming part of something bigger than any single world. Dr. Brooks summed it up during one of their group meetings. They're not asking us to stop being human. They're asking us to be the best humans we can be and to help other species do the same. After a month on Harmony Station, the Guardian brought them back to Earth. The blue chamber filled with light again, and suddenly they were back in orbit around their home planet. Jake looked down at Earth through the transparent walls. The blue and white marble looked so small compared to the vast civilizations they had just visited, but it was home, and it was beautiful. What is your decision? The Guardian asked. Jake looked at his team. They had already discussed this during their final days on Harmony Station. The vote had been unanimous. We recommend that Earth join the galactic community, Jake said. But we want to start with limited membership, trade agreements, cultural exchanges, maybe some shared research projects. We'll grow into full membership over time. A wise choice. Many species begin this way. Full integration takes generations, but the foundation of trust and cooperation can be built quickly. What happens next? Jake asked. We will establish a permanent communication link between Earth and Harmony Station. Your species can begin trading knowledge and resources with other community members. When you are ready for more, simply ask. Jake smiled. Humanity was taking its first steps into a larger universe, but they were taking those steps carefully and on their own terms. The Guardian's massive ship began to move away from Earth, but Jake knew they would be back. This wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure. 3 months ago, Earth had faced extinction at the hands of alien conquerors. Now they were partners in a galactic civilization dedicated to peace and cooperation. The universe had revealed itself to be far more wonderful and terrible than anyone had imagined. But humans had proven they belonged among the stars, not because they were the strongest or smartest species, but because they had something rare and precious: the ability to remain good people even when facing their darkest hour. The test was over. The real journey was just beginning.